The empty chair across the candlelit table felt heavier than a verdict, its silence louder than the hum of the city outside, and the loneliness pressing into her chest matched the ache of long nights spent pretending strength was enough. At the very moment, she decided that this blind date was just another reminder that some people were meant to sit alone. A quiet presence leaned into that emptiness, and a single dad mechanic, eyes worn by grease, grief, and responsibility, whispered that his blind date hadn't shown up either, turning two separate disappointments into the first fragile thread of something unexpected. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet ways strangers can change our lives, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Grandma Dearie, because stories like this live on through hearts that still believe. She had arrived at the restaurant straight from her shift, the uniform crisp but her spirit frayed, the badge on her chest carrying the weight of things no one ever asked her about. Being a cop had taught her how to stand tall in chaos, how to face danger without flinching, but it had never taught her how to fill the silence of an apartment that echoed with nothing but her own footsteps. Tonight was supposed to be different, a blind date arranged by a well-meaning coworker who insisted she deserved happiness too. Yet as minutes turned into an hour, the untouched plate in front of her became proof that hope could still fail her. Around her, couples laughed softly, glasses clinked, and the city glowed beyond the windows, while she stared down at her food, wondering how many times a heart could bruise before it stopped trying. The man who stood beside her table did not look like someone from her world. His hands were rough, nails marked by honest work, his jacket still carrying the faint scent of oil and metal, and his posture was cautious, like someone used to staying out of the way. Life had shaped him differently, through early mornings at the garage, school lunches packed in haste, and evenings spent reading bedtime stories while fighting exhaustion. He had agreed to the blind date for the sake of his daughter, who believed her dad deserved someone to smile with again, but as he glanced at his own empty table, disappointment settled quietly in him, familiar and resigned. It was easier, he had learned, not to expect too much, yet something about the woman in uniform, sitting alone with eyes clouded by more than a missed date, drew him closer. Their connection did not spark like fireworks. It breathed in softly, like a shared exhale after holding in pain for too long. Two strangers sat together not to impress or perform, but simply to avoid being alone with their thoughts. She noticed the way he listened, truly listened, as if her words mattered even when she spoke about mundane things, and he noticed how her guarded expression softened when she realized she didn't have to be strong at that table. He spoke of his daughter without bitterness, of how loss had reshaped his world, and she shared the quiet toll of wearing authority while feeling unseen. The restaurant faded into background noise as something rare unfolded, a space where neither of them had to explain why they were tired. In the days that followed, life did not magically become easier. She still faced long shifts, tense calls, and the burden of being the one people expected to hold everything together. He still woke before dawn, hands aching, responsibilities stacked high, and worries about doing enough as a father. Yet there was now a message waiting on her phone after rough nights, and a warm meal shared in a small kitchen where laughter felt earned. He learned to understand her silences, the kind that came after things she could not talk about, and she learned to appreciate the steady comfort of someone who fixed broken things not just with tools, but with patience. The real challenge arrived when fear tried to pull them apart. She worried that her world was too dangerous, that anyone close to her would live under a shadow of risk. He worried that his past had left him with too little to offer, that his life was already full of obligations and scars. They both stood at the edge of something meaningful, tempted to step back because it felt safer to return to loneliness than to risk another loss. But life had already taught them the cost of closing off, and slowly, carefully, they chose courage over retreat. The night she finally visited the garage, watching him work with quiet pride and showing him the place where he rebuilt more than engines. She realized how strength could look different than a badge. And when he watched her interact gently with his daughter, kneeling to listen as if the child's words were the most important thing in the world, he saw a tenderness that the uniform never revealed. Together, they began to understand that love did not need perfection or grand gestures. It needed presence, honesty, and the willingness to stay. Seasons changed, and so did they. The cop who once believed she was destined for solitude learned to let someone see her vulnerabilities without shame. The mechanic who thought his life had no room for romance discovered that love could fit into the spaces carved by hardship. Their story did not erase the past, but it honored it, turning shared pain into shared strength. What began as two empty chairs and a missed date became a partnership built on empathy, resilience, and the quiet miracle of being chosen. As you reach this moment, if this story stirred something in you, reminded you of a time when kindness found you unexpectedly, or gave you hope that it still can, please like, share, and engage with this video so stories like this continue to be told on Grandma Dearie. And before the ending, take a second to comment what this story made you feel, because your words matter more than you know. In the end, it wasn't the blind date that changed their lives, but the courage to speak into silence and the grace to listen when someone else did the same. Two lonely paths crossed not by perfect timing, but by imperfect humanity, proving that sometimes the love meant for you arrives late, quiet, and exactly when you've almost stopped believing.